It's pretty wild to think about how one single command, just a simple instruction that's almost completely disappeared from programming, could actually change the way we think. That's what we're digging into today. We're talking about a command called GoTo and the incredible revolution that its disappearance kicked off.
This quote really gets to the heart of it. For a whole generation of programmers, this isn't some dusty old history lesson. Nope, it's a real personal memory. It takes us right back to a time when the digital world was being built with a totally different set of rules.
And believe me, that's not an exaggeration at all. The GoTo command, which basically just tells a program to jump, no questions asked, to some other line of code, it wasn't just another feature. It was the fundamental way programmers moved through their own logic. Trying to imagine coding without it back then? Phew. It would have been like trying to write a book without page numbers. Just inconceivable.
But then a single idea came along that was about to challenge everything. It all started with a short, kind of sharp-sounding academic note that would basically light a match under one of the biggest debates in the history of computer science.
And this was the shot heard round the programming world. Back in 1968, this brilliant computer scientist, Dijkstra, he basically argued that using GoTo all over the place led to tangled, unreadable, totally unreliable code. What we now famously call spaghetti code. And he wasn't just suggesting some minor new technique. Oh no, he was challenging the very foundation of how programs were being written. See, this change wasn't just about the code on the screen. The movement Dijkstra started was really about a cognitive shift. The whole point was, as the original text puts it, to structure the mind of the programmer. It was about training people to think in a more organized, more disciplined way right from the get-go.
And just like that, the structured revolution was on. This whole new way of thinking replaced the wild, unpredictable jumps of GoTo with the organized structures that, we all take for granted today, things like loops and if-then statements. It was a fundamental move from total chaos to a new kind of order.
And the results? Wow, they were absolutely immense. With structured programming, suddenly code became way easier to write, to read, and to debug. And what does that lead to? Well, faster development, much more reliable software, and it made programming accessible to a ton more people, which, of course, helped fuel the massive tech boom that came next.
You can draw a straight line from this one single idea all the way to how we work today. The discipline that took hold in the 70s, that gave us all these formal design methods in the 80s. And those very principles, order, clarity, they evolved directly into the modern strategies we use now, like Agile, that are all about continuous improvement.
Okay, but this is where the story takes a really interesting turn. Because, every revolution has a cost, right? In our big rush to embrace all this order and structure, is it possible, did we leave something really valuable behind? The material we're looking at asks this really powerful question. What about paradoxical thinking? What about all the other ways our minds work? The kind of thinking that doesn't just follow a nice, neat, straight line. So here's the central critique, the big what if. By forcing this rigid structure on how we write code, did we accidentally devalue other really powerful mental tools? I'm talking about things like unhindered, free-flowing thought, or that pure, raw intuition you get for solving a problem that just doesn't want to fit neatly into some predefined box. Now, the argument here isn't that order is bad. Not at all. It's about a very specific kind of freedom that got lost in the shuffle. That direct, intuitive, almost, artistic control a programmer had when they were working really, really close to the hardware itself. This really lays out the trade-off perfectly, doesn't it? On one side, you had the world of low-level control with GoTo. That meant raw, unrestricted freedom, a direct line to the machine's full potential, all driven by intuition. And on the other side, structured programming. It gave us order, predictability, and the power to work together on massive projects. We gained so much efficiency, but the question is, did we sacrifice a certain kind of creative genius along the way? And let's be super clear about something. This is not a knock on modern languages like Java or C#. Of course not. There's immense creativity there. The lost freedom we're talking about is something else entirely. It's about that feeling of coding in assembly or maybe even by hand in machine code, where you were just so intimately connected to the processors, to the memory, to the machine itself.
But here's the thing. That raw, unstructured way of thinking, it isn't entirely extinct. It actually survives and thrives in one of the most demanding fields you can imagine, the world of supercomputing. This is a place where the problems are so gigantic that, conventional rules just don't apply anymore.
So why there?
Well, supercomputers often have these totally unique, massively parallel hardware designs. And a lot of our advanced, high-level languages, they just can't keep up, or they can't take full advantage of all that hardware. So to solve the biggest of the big problems, we're talking modeling the entire universe or simulating how organic molecules fold, programmers need that low-level freedom. They have to be able to squeeze every single last drop of performance out of the machine. And to do that, they need intuition.
And that brings us right back to where we started with that quote. It's about this feeling, right? This nostalgia for a kind of freedom that's been lost. It's this recognition that, yeah, the revolution was absolutely necessary and brought incredible progress, but it also closed a door on a whole different way of creating, a different way of thinking.
So that leaves us with one last thought to chew on. And this one goes way beyond just writing code. Think about it. In every field, in our own lives, we build structures to make things more efficient, more predictable. But what brilliant, intuitive, maybe even chaotic possibilities do we leave behind in the process? In our constant search for order, what freedoms have we forgotten?